Hello everyone and welcome back to Bitwig Studio and Music Production. This is lesson 3.29 and we've reached the end of our time and duration based effects inside of Bitwig Studio, so it's time for another creation project. And this creation project is very simple and not very limiting. What you have to do is you can have one sample. You can have as many iterations of that sample as you want. You can, of course, use those stretch parameters and some of those other things we've already looked at inside of Bitwig Studio, as well as automation, modulation, etc. You have access to all of those parameters. On top of that, you can use as many instances of these time and duration-based effects as you would like. You can either use them solo or you can chain them together like I showed you in the last video. So we have the delay 1, the blur, the chorus, the delay 2, the flanger, and the reverb. So get as creative as you want and see what you can come up with by just having access to that one sample and all of these effects. So I'm expecting some really crazy things. I'm sure you guys can do some wonderful things with these very limited tools, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you get. Now, I did want to once again kind of explain why I feel doing some of these assignments in practice is very important. Number one, when you're given a very specific assignment with limitations, it's not as difficult to get started. It's pretty easy to just jump in there, grab your sample, and get to work throwing on a bunch of different effects. That's really simple. Number two, it forces you to actually learn these effects, because when you're limited by the palette you have going in, it's going to force you to push these effects in totally new and different directions. And by now, you should actually understand these effects, understand what their purpose is, how you can get different sounds, different timbres out of them. And now it's just up to you to combine all of that knowledge and try to create something of your own. I'm not expecting a finished, polished, perfect slick track. In fact, I'm hoping for quite the opposite. And I would honestly give this type of assignment to even some of the top producers in the world, especially those who you listen to all of their work and it starts to sound very static. It all starts to sound the same. And that's because they've gotten to a point where they're so complacent and they know what works and they're very comfortable and they're scared to risk anything and try something new. And this forces you to try something new. You're given less tools, you're given less toys, but that forces you to work in a little bit different way. It forces your brain to approach this differently. And I know sometimes I've sat down before and it's like my brain's off and yet I'm still working and I'm still able to come up with things. And at the end, it sounds nice, it sounds slick, it sounds polished, but that's not at all what I wanted. And it sounds so dead and so lifeless. When you have to really think outside the box, you start to inject that little bit of life back into your creations and back into your productions. So I do hope you take the time out and give this a go, but by no means is it a requirement, obviously, because you are just watching these videos on YouTube. But I do hope you give this a shot, and I'd love to hear what you're able to come up with. So thank you so much for watching, and in the next video, whenever that is, we'll take a look at my finished time and duration-based project. Thanks a lot. Take care.